Welcome to the world of sex, where we talk about sex and sex issues, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we've got to counter that. It is Wednesday, June 9th, 2021.
Uh, so I got a computer in our house when I was 12 years old, and my parents were like, oh, and I guess a sidebar, which I always try to point out, the pull-out method could work for 3 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, or 10 years, as it did with my parents. And then they had me. And so the pull-out method will fail at some point. So don't use it as a trusted piece of birth control.
And that's
That
why
being
you had a
said-
computer in your house?
Yeah, no, but I had no supervision at all. So I didn't like go into anything crazy dirty, but I did go into MSN chat rooms, and I learned so much about sex from there. And then
Some of it
Just
may
so
have
that-
even been correct.
or I learned about things. I was like, I should do more research about that. I don't know if that's true. And then like I remember my best friend and I, we started listening to, and now in hindsight, at the time it was good information, but in hindsight, Loveline with Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew, they're not so great now. But at the time when I was listening to Loveline on the radio, it was informative and it was funny. And, obviously a lot of the information is always changing, and we're learning new, the world science is learning more stuff all the time. So some of the things that they said back then, I'm like, actually, we've learned that's not true. But I listened to Loveline from like 14 until, I don't know, it changed to Stryker and Dr. Drew. I think I'm okay at getting people to like kind of open up about things. And I just want to make sure every person, but especially every woman, is getting the best that they can from sex. And that's why I want to and I have done my own field research to learning as much as I can about sex and what works and what doesn't. And, it's taken time. It's been definitely since started my research at 16. Yes, my sex research in the field. Sex is great. And
The world is not set up, or where we live especially, not set up to give good information about sex and to give people good advice about sex. And in many cases, the world is set up to actively give you false or bad information. And we got to combat that.
We have to.
Especially when it comes to women.
Yeah.
America gives women, to say the short end of the stick, that doesn't even begin to touch it. Which gender has a higher preference for reaching orgasm through oral sex?
Women.
Correct, women. Only 10% of men reported a preference for oral sex to reach orgasm. 18% of women said that was their preferred way to go. Men are more likely to reach orgasm when sex includes vaginal intercourse, but women are more likely to reach orgasm when they engage in a variety of sex acts.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir, John. Oh, I know. I've watched a really, really cool TED Talk that I accidentally first sent to my boss. That was uncomfortable, about the clitoris. And it was like a 20-minute TED Talk, and it's really interesting. This woman agreed with me. Or, I remember a long time in an improv sketch, I tried to say the clit is like an iceberg, and someone went and ran with it and just thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, but it really is. It really is like an iceberg. And then this woman in this TED Talk did a whole 20-minute presentation on the clitoris. She made a mechanical bull thing that was actually the clit, and the size of it and how it actually is shaped and stuff. It's really interesting and really cool. So.
We should put a link to it down in the comments below this.
All right, cool. Sure.
There's also, I'll put another link to this one. There was a really great podcast I listened to just recently that was an interview with the person who discovered the G-spot back in the 80s, and how that discovery led to a series of other discoveries where they were like, oh, well, the G-spot really is kind of just discovering more of the clitoris. It's a great podcast, and I really just butchered the hell out of it during that little synopsis, but it's definitely worth a listen. News of the day. There was a school in Massachusetts that distributed a survey that had sex questions on it. All of that stuff was anonymous. But parents threw a big fit about it. The superintendent had to hold a big meeting and everything. Now, I remember taking a little survey like this when I was like middle school age, maybe. So this is not a new thing. This has been around a while.
I personally never took like a sex questionnaire. So like the article that I read when I was reading, I kind of skimmed over it, but the girl felt very uncomfortable about it. It was a 12-year-old, and the dad was like, it was clear that my daughter felt violated. And it's like, okay. It appears that your daughter felt uncomfortable. And I do think that it's important, like, to be able to opt out of those as a child. Like, I mean, this girl was 12 and she was in 6th grade, which is technically junior high now. When I went to school, junior high, it was weird here where we're at. It was 7 through 9. And so I was like 13 in junior high and then to 15. And I did look at actually some of the questions, and, you know, it wasn't just sex. It wasn't an only sex questionnaire. It had to do with drugs and alcohol.
Right. Like there's a question here. During the past 30 days, how many days did you carry a weapon, such as a gun, knife, or club on school property? So this is a safety survey to try to figure out what's happening on the ground in schools.
That I was thinking about like my youth and my childhood was had to do with safety. It was I was in Girl Scouts, and the dad of one of the Girl Scout leaders, he was a firefighter, and he was teaching us how to defend ourselves with an attacker, you know, who might be trying. So at 11, I was taught, hey, you're almost about to get titties and stuff. So just know, even before then, someone might be out to get you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was like 11, I offered to be like the volunteer or whatever. And so first things first, John, you know, you probably know that a lot of times everyone tells girls, we are told to carry our keys in our fingers when we're walking alone because safety, right? Every other country in the world must have to do that. No, turns out not at all. And I don't know about you, but I don't sharpen my keys very often, ever.
What?
I guess I've been fucking off with
that for Christmas.
No, okay, thank you.
Oh, we're living in the worst timeline.
Yeah, and not to mention, so if I'm I'm a Rebecca, and I'm walking down the street, and some guy who is probably bigger than me who has decided to get me, I got my dull ass keys in my hand, and I'm supposed to Wolverine my way out of being fucking assaulted. Those keys
fall
are
back
gonna
on all of your combat training.
Yeah, they're gonna dig into my hands, those keys, because they're not very stable in my fingers. The strength I have in this arm to even try to punch, let alone, like scratch someone's face with my keys is not enough to. I feel like unless I went straight for his eye and my keys, he would be like, "What do you do? Are you like gently
pawing at my face?"
Yeah, pawing at my face, or he could, and they would fall. No. And then and in hindsight, this isn't a good advice. It was truly meant to be helpful at that time in like 1999. But the guy was like, so then though, if, you know, what you could also do is go along with it a little, like pretend like you are, put your hands on their neck and like, okay, yeah, I thought I didn't want to, but now I realize I do. And you do that. And then you jab your thumbs in their eyes. And I'm like, right. As an 11-year-old, this grown man is going to be like, oh shit, she's into it now? Hell yeah. Like, not bad advice, not good advice. I never had to use that. But it's just crazy to me that, like, you know, at 11, they're like, all right, guys, ladies, someone's probably out to get you. So, you know, we're just going to like prepare you a little bit. And the reason I thought about this so much is like, you know, like I said, I'm into K-pop, watch a lot of Korean videos and stuff. And in Seoul, like people will just like leave their laptops out, all their stuff out while they go to the bathroom. And like they were interviewing one guy talking about how safe it was there. And he's like, yeah, I just left my stuff in there. Like, they're like, well, we're a block away. He's like, I know. it's going to be there when I get back. Here, let's go check it out. And it was still there. Like, it is a very safe place. And
Gosh.
the thought of that just doesn't even occur to people. Like, oh, I'll steal their things. Like, I don't know. So that's what made me, I was like, dang, that's fucked up that I had to learn that at 10 or 11, you know,
You've
when it's
done
just like,
something incredibly wrong.
yeah,
You have to worry about that.
yeah. And unfortunately, I mean, it's getting better, definitely. Well, I think I'm not 11 now, but I think it's getting better, especially like just in general, as how far everything has come with I work with some Gen Z guys at work, and they're like, you know, don't, no body shaming, no, like, hey, that's just how they are, you know, don't, how could you say that, blah blah blah, just so woke, when really it's just like good. They're just good. It's not necessarily woke, it's just they learned the right way, how it should have been done, how it should be done. So that was my kind of tangent about this question survey thing, but I think the girl should have been able to opt out.
There was an opt-out form that was sent out 48 hours before the survey, but a lot of parents were complaining that they missed it or they didn't have a chance to respond. So,
uh yeah,
and they were like, okay, we should have maybe sent that out earlier.
true.
I myself, I have a daughter that I've been talking about sex and sex adjacent topics with her since she was able to talk,
Yeah.
because it's important for kids to realize that this is the kind of world that they are emerging into. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't have any problem with my daughter or son taking this survey at all. It gives people, I think it gives administrators an idea of what they're dealing with. One of the questions here, uh, during the past 12 months, how many times did anyone force you to do sexual things that you did not want to do? Have you ever tried cigarette smoking? I'm looking at the sex questions right now on the survey. It's asking, how old were you when you had sexual intercourse for the first time? During the past 3 months, with how many people? During
Hmm.
your life, with how many people? Um, oh, sorry, one more. The last time you had sexual intercourse, did you or your partner use a condom? I think if you get this information about your school, you can get an idea about what's happening and you can apply the correct kind of education that your students really need. If
Hmm.
your students are out there and they're all like, yes, I've had sex with 6 or more people during the past 3 months, no condoms. That tells
Yeah.
you right there, you need some emergency education there right fast. On the survey, several of the girls indicated that they had been self-harming in the restrooms of the school. So they were
Mhm.
able to put a plan into place to be able to counteract some of that. Okay, Rebecca, thanks for talking about all this with me today. It's been really
Yeah.
fun. Hey, come on back tomorrow. We'll talk about some more stuff.
All right, I will. Sounds good. See ya.
Maybe you would like to be a guest host on the World of Sex. If so, send us an email to that address right down there. We'll talk. Why not?